Welcome back to this week's edition of the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we have filmmaker Naveen Chathapuram, who has directed The Last Victim, starring Ali Lauder. Why am I blanking on Ron Perlman? Ron Perlman and Ralph. I believe it's Ineson.
Ineson.
Okay, there you go. How you doing today, Naveen?
I'm good, Brett. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to talk to you. Well, let me start off by saying how did this project come about, and what was the pathway to actually getting it to the shooting stage?
Originally, it came about about 2002, 2003, when I met a gentleman named Dr. Neil Justin. And he is an anthropologist, and he had this idea to do a film that is in the same world as Deliverance and Breakdown. So I was just, probably 2 years out of film school, and I just finished my first film as a producer. And I just got on board, and we wrote the script, and it took place in the Southwest and things like that. The next year, in 2004, we were going to film it, and the location burnt down on a forest fire, Mount Lemon.
Oh, wow.
So we had to shelve the project. And then when I decided to get back into directing in 2017, I picked the script up again, I read it, and I called up Ashley James Lewis, who was an up-and-coming writer whose script I had read, and I said, "Hey, do you want to take a crack at the script?" And then we started working on it from there.
First, if you could explain your, step away. You said, I know you produced some things. What was the reason for stepping away from wanting to direct and producing instead?
Yes. So when I watched directors in my early career, I was really intimidated. I knew that it was just not about the creative process. There's logistics, there's finance, there's a lot of other things that are happening around the film set. So I wanted to learn more about nuts and bolts production and the building blocks of storytelling, from a logistical and financial standpoint. So I started spending a lot of time working on nuts and bolts production and things like that. And then I wanted to produce other filmmakers' films so I can see how they make films. So one of the filmmakers I worked with was Stephen Milburn Anderson. He had done a film called South Central back in the 90s, and Oliver Stone had produced it.
Oh yeah, that's a great film.
Absolutely. So I was filming this movie in New Mexico, and I met him, and and I found out that he had left Hollywood and he was living there as a hermit. And basically, when I went to his office, he had 26 scripts. And one of the scripts was this thing called The Root of All Evil. And I read it and I thought, it's a film that we should make. And we went and made it. And during that process was a great learning experience for me, because from the moment I picked up the script with him to the moment we distributed it, I was there side by side watching the entire process, him making decisions. So he ultimately, even though I produced this film, he ultimately became my mentor. In the sense that, he would tell me, he's like, "Naveen, I would think directing is a lot more creative." And he would say, "It is creative, but ultimately directing the job is about the process of making decisions. You got to say yes and no's. And those yes and no's would lead to an ultimate movie that someone's going to watch and say it's good or bad."
Right.
So he broke it down into elements that I could understand. And I learned about the financing aspect of films. I learned about distribution. I learned about budgeting, scheduling, and all those things. So when I finally decided to direct, I had gotten to a point where if I didn't jump into direct, I would probably miss that boat for another 10, 15 years. And maybe I would never have a chance to turn. So that's the moment I decided that, look, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to start from scratch and become a director.
Great. I heard somebody say once, and I forget who said it, but somebody said that if you want to be a director, you have to ask yourself if you want to be asked questions all day long.
Yes. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And if you can't handle that, you probably don't want to direct.
Exactly. I mean, if when you call cut, and I had this experience when we were doing that film in 2008. He had me direct one shot, and I wasn't prepared, and he's like, "Okay, direct that shot," and I directed it, and I remember saying cut, and then about 20 people rushed into the tent, of one from the camera department, one from script supervision, like, and they were all asking me questions, like, and I had to answer it and either decide to say one more take or we're good. And I couldn't make that decision. And Steve's like, that's directing for you, and it was like,
Yeah, I had the pleasure of a friend of mine is a director. He filmed a movie in Atlanta a number of years ago, and I went down there. It's really fascinating to be behind the scenes of a major film. Quite honestly, it's so much. Quite honestly, it's fairly tedious. There's a lot of motion, and then resetting or moving or what have you. I got to see a lot of things done on a film in one day, but still, it's amazing how much work goes into just one shot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And when you add to that, like weather, we were shooting some days at like -8 degrees temperature, and our lens would freeze up, and you have to wait till you lose 3 hours because you're waiting for the follow focus to work again, and things like that. So between all this, like you have to tell a story, like between all the things. So,
-80 degrees. Where were you filming?
-8, not 80.
Oh, -8. Sorry. Still, where were you filming?
Yeah, we were filming in southeastern British Columbia, which was.
Oh, yeah, Canada.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Yes.
And then you go and you make a movie in New Mexico, which is kind of like the polar opposite of anything in Canada. What was the experience? You filmed in New Mexico?
The film takes place in New Mexico, but we shot it in Canada.
Really?
Yeah, we found an area. It's this place called the Okanagan Valley, and
Okay.
it's like someone took a piece of northern New Mexico and they dropped it down there.
Yeah, because it definitely has the feel for America.
Yes.
Ultimately, you could probably film desert almost anywhere, maybe, and probably get an approximation of it. But that's surprising.
New Mexico has these the sagebrush, and it has a particular look. And we were driving through this valley, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're in New Mexico!" And obviously, luckily, we only had 2 sets. One is the bus, and then the other one is the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So we took a gas station that was on the side of the road, and we transformed it into a roadside diner.
Yeah, that opening scene, man, is I gotta say that it surprised me how tense and well orchestrated. I mean, I only surprising because I didn't know what to expect. And that is a hell of an opening scene.
Thank you.
Ralph is so good. He's so just absolutely evil, but perfectly evil. It's great. How did casting come about? I mean, you got Ralph, you've got Ali Larter, Ron Perlman. How did you come about? What was that process of casting like?
It was a process. So Ralph came on board first. So I'd seen The Witch. I was a huge fan of The Witch, and in that I remember seeing him, and he's like one of those actors. They're great actors, and then there are actors who are so good they blend into the world. Right. And when you see them in another film, you don't even compare them to the film that you've seen them in before. And that's what I had a feeling about Ralph in there. And when we got the script done, he was on top of my mind because of that. And I've watched the trailer for The Witch probably 200 times just to hear the voice, Ralph's voice in that. And this film has a lot of, as you know, voiceover. So we wanted to make sure that, it was, so we went to Ralph. It was the first actor we went to for that role. And, he accepted the role, and that brought a lot of weight and credibility to the movie.
Yeah.
And then Allie, she was on top of the list, and she wanted to have a call with me, and she asked a lot of questions. She asked a lot of questions about the character, the story, the arc, and once she knew that I had it figured out in my mind, she went back to her team and said, "Okay, she's going to do the film."
Yeah.
And then Ron was the last one to come on board, but he was on top of our list. He was always on the wish list. He was on top of the list. A lot of the producers thought it was a long shot for a film of this nature by a first-time director. So we kept going to a few others, and at some point in time, we just said, "Look, what is it? Worst case, he's going to say no. Why don't we?"
Right.
And the surprising part was, we go to him on the offer goes on Friday, and usually they take a week, 2 weeks to get back. Saturday, 11 a.m., his agent calls back and says, Ron loves the script, and he wants to do the movie.
That's great.
So that was, and the younger actors, that was again a pleasure, because the local casting team brought a lot of talented actors, and so it was just trying to figure out, who's going to do the best and how they're going to. It's all an interplay, right? Who's going to do well with this brother, and who's going to be a good deputy with Ron, and all those type of things. So I'm really pleased with how it all came about.
Yeah, no, it's right. It turned out very well. When did you film? When was production?
So production was 2019, November, December of 2019.
Okay.
And we were going to go into,
so this is pre-COVID, yeah.
Yeah. So our edit got pushed 6 months because of that. And then it was like a cascade of things.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's coming out now, because I feel like this is the time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, everything's kind of, kicking back into gear. Hopefully we don't have any problems.
Yes.
I know I've been hearing some rumblings in Chicago, where I'm at, that cases are up. So
yeah,
a little concerned, but, hopefully things keep moving smoothly. And is this, forgive me, but is this getting released in theaters or directly to home video?
No, it's select theaters and
Okay.
on digital. So it's a day and date release. So this Friday, May the 13th.
Okay, how many theaters is it going out?
That I don't have the actual numbers, but it's
okay.
It's select theaters, probably.
Yeah. No, I get you. And it's gonna be on digital, so people can see it there from the comfort of their home if it's not playing near them, which is great. Okay. It's an amazing kind of time to be alive, where I remember, I'm 50 years old, so I remember as a kid going to movie theaters, and they give out this little folded card kind of thing, which showing all the upcoming movies, and that was basically my internet.
Yes.
It's got so and so in it, or so and so directed that, or that concept sounds good, and then you would never see these films show up. I would be watching, and then you'd hear about it. That was at the time of home video, so eventually things came out.
Yes.
Well, oh my God, it never came to a theater. What happened? Or they play it in one theater in Texas.
Yes.
So they were obligated to play it in a theater for a week.
Yes.
It's amazing. Probably the weirdest example of a movie being completely abandoned. And this, I'm not saying that this is happening with your film. That's not what I'm getting at. But back then, films would get abandoned. Is Peter Bogdanovich's That Thing You Do, or not That Thing You Do? Oh crap! It was the country movie. The River Phoenix, one of River Phoenix's last ones.
Yep.
And it was just abandoned, and I got to see it it was playing one theater in Chicago.
Oh my God.
It's like,
no, absolutely.
No, but we're living in amazing times where everything is available now.
Absolutely. I think a film like this, even in those times, to have seen, they would have spent millions of dollars for marketing, but in this
Right.
case, it's getting a nationwide release, and whoever chooses to, they can watch it. Obviously, I'm a big theater goer. I love the experience of watching movies in a theater, but at the
Right.
same time, nowadays I sometimes wear my noise canceling headphones and I'm sitting in the basement and watching a film, on my own. So. Uh, like you said, like, would you rather have your film just play in a theater and then disappear into oblivion, or would you take the opportunity to have everyone watch it? And I would take that second any day.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about the time before video. It's like films literally would, they'd play it in a theater for however long, sometimes a long time, sometimes 1 week, whatever,
Yes,
and you'd never hear about them again.
yes,
And then video just opened up this whole thing where everything was found. Well, not everything. A lot of stuff is gone forever, but
yes,
which is sad. But it's an amazing time to be alive in terms of entertainment. In general.
yes.
You know,
Uh,
uh, what do you got working on? Is there anything you're working on next? I saw there was a couple of things pending, but I don't know what the status of any of that is.
yeah, so I'm excited about two scripts. One is a revenge thriller in the South. It takes place in Louisiana, and it's
Okay.
really exciting because it has like a feel of that mysterious man comes to town sort of a genre with a cool hand Luke feel to it.
Okay.
And another one is by the same writer, Ashley James Lewis, but it's a complete different genre. It is a thriller, but it's a character drama thriller. Uh,
Okay.
and I just read the script; it's fantastic, and so I'll be looking at both of that next.
Okay. So those are just at the stage of deciding kind of which one to move on first, I suppose.
Yeah, we're doing like early prep on both together. Next
Okay.
is casting, and then once cast comes together, then that'll decide which one goes first. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. No, I'm looking forward to it. And I just have one more question for you, and I can let you go.
Thanks.
What would you say were the films that influenced you to want to be in the business?
Oh my God, so much to name. But
Yeah.
I would probably um, I would go to Badlands. The first
Good
day in film
choice.
school. Yeah, first day in film school, they played that film at Film Tech One class, and I watched it, and I was like, "That's why I want to be a filmmaker." But even before that, I grew up with Spielberg films, Kubrick films, Oliver Stone films, Coppola. Like I was just a huge fan, and I am a huge fan, and I continue to watch films. And what happened is just watching all those greats, Sergio Leone and Peckinpah, and so like Kurosawa, like I can keep going, but when you
Yeah.
keep watching this, at some point in time, my curiosity went to like, oh, there are people who are behind these movies who are telling these stories. What do these people do? And then once I found out there's a writer, there's a director, there are crew members, like there's a cinematographer. So that curiosity led to wanting to make movies.
That's great. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. The Last Victim is out in select theaters and available, wide on digital this coming Friday, May 13th. Check it out. It's an excellent film. And Naveen, I wish you all the best luck going forward.
Brett, thank you so much, and thanks for having me on your show.
I appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right, bye.
Cheers. Yeah.